to be live today with Sid Garza-Hillman. He is out in California and he's got some interesting and very cool stuff to share with you. So, personal note, Sid has been a speaker at our events in Durham, North Carolina, and Wilmington, North Carolina, and Nashville, Tennessee. And this year he was coming to Asheville, and that airfare has been just a sword our size.
Yeah,
the airfare for Asheville it's been kind of fun because we keep having to move it and we have to do it again. So he was coming to Asheville, and I would have him come to any event possible. You have to know that he is, I didn't know, like at his booth, I met him in New York City at the New York City Vegetarian Festival, and he was kind of, chill and just cool, like hanging out, like here's my book, I would love to come and speak at your event. And okay. And then he comes to the Triangle and he's like, he's at his booth and he's all like, and then he gets on stage and and I was like, whoa, this man is dynamic. It was the coolest thing. One of the best pictures I've taken of a speaker was of Sid when he was speaking with his background. And we would love to hear from you during this, just so you know. So please post comments, tell us where you're from, ask us questions. Sid is an author. He has a podcast. He's an ultra marathoner. He's a nutritionist. There's so much value to you wanting to know who he is that I'm going to let him go and share more about him. You can see I have his page up on our screen, and we'll let that go in a few minutes. But for now, come say hi and let's get going. Sid, let's go.
Happy to be here, and your events are some of the favorite events I ever do, and it's always fun to do that. So any event you ever have, I'll be there if I can. So, I mean, you just kind of said it all. The only new thing is that in this time of craziness that we're in, I went back and took a course, and I became a certified running coach as well. So I'm going to actually kind of get into that, I think, when things open up again, and see where that takes me. But I'm writing a new book, and I run the wellness center at the Stanford Inn and Resort, which is the only vegan resort in North America, and run the wellness center there. But of course, it's shut down, which is weird for everybody, including mostly Joan and Jeff, who are have owned it for 40 years, and now they're having it shut down for the first time. So we're kind of just doing the thing that people are doing, and I'm just keeping busy with work that I do anyways, and just kind of devoting a little more time to that because I have more time. And other than that, just hanging. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them, hopefully. And what else?
Okay, so let's go into what you just shared with me before we went live. So we're running every 4 hours?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in it. Yeah, like I have one more. But anyway, so there's this guy named David Goggins who I follow a little bit. He's a Navy SEAL, and he's written a book, and anyway, he's an interesting guy, and very much into like mental toughness. And he's done like the Navy SEAL training multiple times, even though he didn't need to. Like, he's crazy that way. But anyway, he has this challenge that is, you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And so I was like, yeah, okay. And so I did it. So there was another guy, Billy Yang, who makes these great films on YouTube. And he posted a video, said, I'm going to do this Goggins challenge. Does anybody else want to do it? So I did it. I didn't go into his group stuff, but I just took it on. So I've done every run except for one more, which will be in about 3 hours from now. And so I've run 4 miles every 4 hours for the last 48 hours, including, of course, in the middle of the night. So midnight, 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. and so on and so forth. So it's crazy. I don't know why I did it, other than I'm at home. My wife was like, really, why do you do these things? I'm like, what? I mean, honestly, like, what else? It's like, I don't have to commute, so, so I'm done, in about 3 hours. I'll be very happy to be finished, with it, but feeling okay now. My son brought me a cup of coffee just before we went on. And so that's helping me keep things alive. Otherwise it's because it's been very little sleep in the last 48 hours. So, because it's getting, you run for the 4 miles and you get in bed, you don't fall asleep right away. So it's like maybe I get an hour, and then I'm up again and getting downstairs on the treadmill and running another 4 in the morning. It's like, good Lord, So, anyway, so that's kind of what I've been doing, and over the last 48 hours. Otherwise, just, really am keeping busy with the book. When I write, I've done a couple books, as you know, and when I write, it's always like at night or early in the morning, because I work at the wellness center. And the last book, actually, I actually went to Jeff and I was like, listen, pay me less, but let me write at work, because the first book I was like up until 2 a.m. and then up again at 6 a.m. and writing before work. And he goes, right at the end, I won't pay you less. I was like, damn, this is amazing. And so actually the last book, the Healthy Families book, I would get to the resort and write in the lobby for about an hour and a half each morning. And that made it way more reasonable. But this one, so I was kind of getting that going on this one. And then all of a sudden the coronavirus hit and we shut down. And so I'm in my 4th edit and looking, and doing that whole thing. So that's been really, really good. I run Smallsteppers, which is a 12-week program. Teaching people my approach. I just finished a session about a month ago. I do 2 12-week sessions per year. So that's done right now. But I was busy with that. And then there was a no meat athlete program that I co-authored with Matt Frazier called Health Made Simple. And I did another one of those early on in this year, February into March. And that's done now. So I'm kind of in a holding pattern with those kinds of things, just working on the book and doing my thing.
What about the ultra marathon? So I can imagine this impacted your
Such
event.
a bummer. Such a bummer. I mean, I was a holdout on it because California hadn't shut stuff down per se. That they were I could see it going on, and runners were asking me, was this going to happen? I said, listen, right now it's going to happen because I can stagger runners. Mm-hmm. I keep it's a sold out race every year, but I keep it small on purpose. So it's 150 runners, period. That's always how I don't want to ever grow it because I like the intimacy of it. And so I was like, I'm just going to launch people in groups of 25, and there's a huge long parking lot. So I'll just stretch everybody out. Nobody will be even close to each other. And in an ultra marathon, within the first 5 miles, everybody's spread out anyways. And so I thought, okay, I'll just stagger it. And I really was holding, and runners were like, thank you for doing this because it's giving us something to do. And then California was like, no more than 10 people in a thing. And I was like, oh man, I got to pull the plug on this. So it would have been the 5th year, which was really a bummer because it's one of my favorite things to do. I mean, it's a lot of work, but you put events way more than I do. So this is like it's so nice. And I've done it 4 years, in a row, and I know how to do it. Once you've done it a few times, you know how to do it. So it's not extra stressful. It's stressful, but not too stressful. Mm-hmm. And so I just kicked it to next year. So the 5th year will be now in 2021 on April 17th. So I just took all the registered runners and said, okay, I'm giving you guys 100% discount to run it in 2021. And whoever wants to take it can take it. So,
okay. So tell people a little bit more about that, because I mean, you just said you're in 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours and you have 1 left. And then what we're talking about is 50 mile, 50K.
Yes, 34. Yeah, 34 miles. But in one hit. Right. So it's 50K is technically 31.4, but my race is actually 34 miles. Is just because of the way the course worked out. It's a nice big loop, and it's really, really beautiful. Some runners come across and they go, it wasn't exactly 30. I was like, listen, you're in the wrong sport. Like, this is trails and people running in like non-branded clothing. Like this is like ragtag, But yeah, so it's an ultra marathon, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it's Mendocino and right on the coast, and it starts and finishes right on the coast. You hit some of the hills and the trails inland and redwoods and waterfalls, and then you come back down and run along the cliffs, and it's breathtaking. It's an incredible run, and it's one of only 2 all vegan ultra marathons in the country. Mm-hmm. The other one is called Vegan Power Ultra, and I've looked to see if they were still rolling, and they go to some weird site. So I'm not sure. I may be the only one at this point. I don't know, but it's at most 1 of 2, and maybe 5 worldwide. Like, it's a very small group of vegan ultra marathons. And I don't really talk about it. It's kind of like the Stanford Inn. Like I wanted it to be an ultra marathon, just a mainstream cool event, just like the resort is just a great place to vacation. 90% of the guests that come to the inn are not vegan. And I would say probably 95% of my runners are not vegan. But they have great food, which is provided by the Stanford Inn. So they have amazing food. They have a great time. They have a beer, and then maybe don't even think about it, but they kind of notice, but then they don't really care. And I kind of like that. It provides this experience of like, this can be regular. It's not weird. Come and run a race like you would. It's not, you're going to be fine, And so it's been an incredible experience putting that race on. It really has.
I know. I was pushing to help you.
I know. And I'd love to, I might have you at, it's kind of dialed in right now. I was a little crunch time last year because my volunteer coordinator retired basically. And he's like, I can't do this anymore. He's got grandkids and everything. And so my buddy Bree, luckily I said, do you want to do this? And she's become sort of the assistant race director. So, and she's great. And she does but if she decides to bow, guess who's getting a phone call? Freaking, you're getting a phone call.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's a really fun day. People come down and they just hang out. It's a super fun. We feed everybody. So the cool thing is, so some races you do, they say, you bring your number and we check your number off and you get to go in. I feed everybody. You're there just, if you wander by to see what's going on, you can eat, and so it's like a fun day because people are just hanging out on the beach. It's basically the start and finish is on a beach. So you just hang out on the beach and have some great food, and so it's been really cool that way.
That is, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was last year I was all in to help, but at the same time, I was like, well, if this doesn't happen, that's okay because I'm so busy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'll do it.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do a lot of events. Yeah, I wouldn't grab you unless I really it was in a crunch of organization, because I can imagine your hands are super full with all the events that you do.
Yeah, but the chance to go to California,
I know,
because I've lived out there, so it's like going home and doing this really cool thing with when I'm not running 50K.
Yeah.
I'm going to support all those that are.
Yeah, well, do you know Doug Hay from No Meat Athlete? He does Rock Creek Runner, and he's the No Meat Athlete co-host of the podcast. He's out of Asheville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's come out and he's done the race 3 times, but he's come out, or 2 or 3 times, I can't remember. But he's come out and helps me organize it, but then he runs it, and he's a great runner, so he's fine. So he helps me load the truck, and we have a great time. And so he was going to come out again this year, and he couldn't come last year because he had a baby, and this year he's going to come out. And so that's another reason why I was so disappointed to cancel the race, because he couldn't make it out, and I was bummed about that. So
yeah,
so it goes.
I get it. Yeah. And there's no way to, obviously there's no way to push it to the fall if that possibility exists.
I didn't want to, because I feel like it's too soon. I didn't want to set a date and then have them go, no, we're still not there yet. And they could do that in April of next year, but I figure it's easy. So it's always around Earth Day. That's kind of the inception of the race, was it's going to be around Earth. It's most times it's on Earth Day weekend. This year was weird because Earth Day was on a Wednesday. Hello, but anyway, so I had it the weekend before that. So it's kind of the nature of the race. So I was like, I'm just going to kick it till Earth Day of 2021 and just kind of keep it in its own element.
Okay, I totally understand.
Yeah.
And then, so you've mentioned the Stanford Inn. And there are probably a lot of people who don't know what the Stanford Inn is. So
yeah, more people don't. We wish more people knew of what the Stanford Inn was. Yeah, because it's such a cool, weird kind of thing. It's a resort. I mean, the simple thing is that's not weird about it is it's a resort, and so we like to talk about the fact that it's a resort that happens to be vegan / plant-based, whatever you want to call it. I'm sort of we took away the vegan because people have a loaded idea of vegan, but then plant-based, they're going to be pissed about that too, because there's no eggs on the menu. So it's you can't make me, and so you can't win no matter what. So anyway, there's no animal products. I'll put it that way. And so it's one of 2 all plant-based resorts in the country, and North America, really, like Mexico, Canada, and the US. And one of, again, like my race, one of very few in the world. A very small handful. And they've been in business for 40 years. They were vegetarian for a while. And then about 10 years ago, they became 100% plant-based. And like I said, 90% of our guests are not vegan, probably not even vegetarian. And people come and they have a great time. And lo and behold, they have great food. There's a bar. It's not a new agey. I'm not knocking that, but it's not like that. It's a pretty, it's a lodge, kind of woody, beautiful place with an indoor pool and canoeing and biking and a wellness center, of course, and the restaurant and all this cool stuff. Yeah, and so it's very accessible, and so we don't want to devalue the fact that it's plant-based, but it's just, we also don't want to overvalue it. It's just it's part of the nature of the game. Joan, Jeff's, and my ethic. It's a representation of what they do and how they want to run a business. And so it's just sort of come here, this is what you get when you come to the Stanford Inn. So it's a pretty great place to work. And I just hope, I'm really crossing my fingers that this place gets opened up again, because it's been a bummer. Like I said, I come down once a day to check their mail. Joan and Jeff are a little older, and so I don't really want them out and about as much. And so I kind of check the mail and get that going on and chat with Jeff in the driveway with, good social distancing, and keep in touch with them via email. I'm still working, I answer emails that are in related and things like that. But certainly not to the extent that I used to.
Yeah, no, I really hope. I know that they're very generous too, because they sponsor a lot of events that you do, and they donate. I know they donate to the Refuge. Lenore spoke with me on Thursday. They donate to the Refuge every year, a weekend at the Stanford Inn as one of their gala prizes.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, no, they're out. I mean, and now it's interesting because we get asked a lot for, donations for everything, and pretty much with little exception, they've done some education stuff, but for very little exception, it's always animal related. Like they will, if I'm speaking somewhere, there's a darn good chance they'll sponsor because I'm there anyway, and I can sit at the Stanford table because that's where I work. But they're donating to like farm sanctuaries, not just Gene's, but like like you said, like a bunch, and so California and back east and everything else, and so they're very like involved in that on that level, and it's very cool, and it's sort of like personally for me, I just want more businesses like this to thrive, and so because it's like this is what we need, and I'm so naive about this, but like my wife and I were talking about, could this change the game, this coronavirus? And then I read that they're trying to up meat production, and Tyson's opening up its pork production, even though their workers are getting. And I'm like, we never learn the lesson, And a buddy of mine texted. He's like, yeah, the meat thing. And I said, yeah, eventually, probably too late, they're gonna go, God, those vegans, they're weird, but they were totally right. They were totally right about that. They were totally weird. We should have listened to them, and and it's like, we've got to stop this madness. It's crazy. And now we're seeing boots on the ground, like what happens, when you have Bill Maher had a good piece on the factory farm. I don't know if you heard that, but it's like, it's got to stop. It's disease ridden. It's sickness. These things are bred in these horribly non-sanitary environments, and we've got to just move away from it. It's time. And it's like, but now Costco's rationing meat, all this crazy stuff. I'm like, oh my God, so it goes.
Yeah, poor Costco. Wear a mask or you can't come in, and people are going crazy about wearing a mask. Isn't it
funny how, like, I saw this one woman, she had a sign about masks. It's my body. I was like, oh no, that's so crazy. That's so yes, you're gonna relate us asking you to wear a mask to abortion. Is that what's happening right now? Like, like it's my body. You can't tell. It's put a mask on, for crying out loud. It's not that big of a price to pay for the potential good of society. Like,
right.
Geez,
and not just and now not just the people who are high risk or who are elderly. With elderly, by the way, Cuomo, I watch him every day pretty much. Yeah. He was like, that's over 50. And I was like, yo, I'm 50.
I'm elderly. Yeah, I'm 51. Yeah,
we're the same age. Right.
Yeah.
We're part of the group that is at high risk because we're of our age, which is really scary. And he's 60 or whatever he is, 61. Yeah, no, and it's absolutely ridiculous to think that. But now there's kids, there's children who are dying from this virus.
Yeah, because we have to keep under wraps, because it's just gonna get if we we got to close things down a little bit longer, and it's gonna be okay. But yeah, I'm I keep reading these things. I'm like, over 50. Oh wait, shit, that's me. Like and then I go, I don't get the benefit of that. Like, I don't get discounted movie tickets yet. Like, when is that gonna kick in? That's the thing that I want. If I'm gonna go over 50, I want the benefit, not the freaking danger of the coronavirus. That's totally unfair.
Yes, yeah, exactly. No, I hear you. We can easily talk about this for a long time, because it's what we're living right now, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, let's share about your books, because you help parents, and you're raising vegan kids, and perception of veganism, because that's the picture I took. Right? Let's say go for it.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, and this is just a thing that we need to be aware of, and a lot of my talks, including the ones I've done for you and your events, is about our how we present in the world, and as people who've made a decision. It's always about the brainwashing thing, except for I didn't become vegan until well into my adult life. I wasn't brainwashed by anybody. I read the work and said, oh my God, this is crazy, and made a decision about it. And so we made a change. It wasn't like we just were inducted into we read something and said, this needs to change. And so some of us have said, I'm not going to do that anymore. It's not okay. It's an ethical thing. Then we make it about food, and we get into arguments about protein. But at the end of the day, it really is an ethical decision, even one to take care of yourself. That's how I argue. My background, I got a bachelor's degree in philosophy from UCLA, and so I sort of paint my approach always with a philosophical, ethical, moral background, and say before we get into a discussion about which diet is healthier, that's not, paleo. I always say like paleo, maybe that'll turn out to be the healthiest diet in the world. I still wouldn't do it because of the other ramifications of our food system. And so, can you be healthy and be vegan? Of course. Okay, good. End of story. Then we don't need to talk about it anymore because there's so many great environmental benefits of being vegan, and there's obviously the ethical animal part of it. So we don't really need. I don't want to get into a discussion about keto versus vegan. It's not important to me because you can be supremely vegan, supremely healthy and vegan. End of story. Because it's such a better diet for the planet. So it's like, I don't want to talk about it. And yet, there's so many lectures and this and the heart disease and it's all good stuff. But I think we should remember the background of why we came to this decision, especially how we act in the world. And I'll tell you that some of our worst guests at the resort are vegan. Even though 90% of our guests aren't vegan, some of the worst are because they're militant and they try to nail us on stuff. And I'm like, don't nail us. Nail the Holiday Inn. Don't, even if we're not perfect, and we're not perfect, but don't nail us on anything because we're doing so much better than any other establishment, any other lodging in the country. Don't nail us, even though we're not perfect, but just don't nail us because you're not doing the good of that. Don't leave us a bad review because, you know what I mean? So anyway, so my talks are about perception of veganism. How are we presenting in the world? What's the example that we're setting? Are we happy and having fun with this and healthy and vibrant? Because if we are, that's going to make a very big difference. If we're pissed and angry and getting in people's faces, then that's not going to really help. We've got to, even though we're angry about stuff, and I am too, really, but I don't want to walk around that way because I don't think that's a helpful thing for the animals or for the planet to be the crazy vegan. There are, and there's also non-crazy vegans, obviously. And so I don't know which one I am, but anyway, so it's to pay attention to kind of how we present in the world, because I think that makes a huge difference. And so both my books, my second book, the Healthy Families book that you mentioned, is called Raising Healthy Parents. I'm raising my 3 kids 100% plant-based, have always been since birth, except for breast milk, as I always say, because people try to nail you on it. What about breast milk? It's like, good one. Anyway, and so, but they're 100% plant-based, and they're not fine. They're more than fine. They're thriving. Like and then their teacher goes, well, we have these teeth, and so we're supposed to eat meat. It's like, oh, don't get in, why are you talking to my kid about diet? You're a teacher that's not teaching nutrition. Shut up, and so it's like constant stuff. But raising healthy parents is the message, which is that we need to take care of ourselves. Because things like that happen in the world. My kids have to deal with the comments. I've got to be, and my wife has to be, the people who are confident and strong enough to be the people who can help them get the perspective that's necessary so they don't get bent out of shape about it. I got to be that myself first. I can't be all, oh my God, oh, crazy. I've got to be like, okay, that's going to happen. Here's why we do what we do. And here's how you handle it. So raising healthy parents is like, take care of yourself as a parent. You've got to be the example first so that your kids see what this decision makes and how being healthy and vibrant and having happiness is possible. Make that possible for you so they can see, oh, that's possible. That's kind of a cool thing. So that was the book on that. My first book's called Approaching the Natural, a Health Manifesto. And that's basically lays out my general small steps approach to health and happiness. 1 chapter's on food and the rest is not on food, because this is a multifaceted way to live. It's tackling all areas of our lives in ways that manage our stress so that we can handle things better. We can be the people we really want to be. We don't do that when we're under stress. You can see that really manifesting right now in the country of people who are, they're afraid because they watch too much news, and they're, scared, and they're super stressed. And that's the irrational, crazy behavior of people, hoarding toilet paper. It's like that's the irrationality you get when you don't take care of yourself and don't go like, okay, it's scary, but I can handle this. That takes work to get to the point where you go, I got it. It's terrifying, but I'm not going to act like a crazy person as a result of it. I'm going to do what I can when I can. And that's a challenge. That's hard work. It takes hard work to pull that off, to be that kind of person. So
Yes.
that's what I'm working, like I don't sit down on the pedestal and go, look at me. But I'm constantly like, this is the work of being a human, and especially of being a parent too, this is the work of it. It's hard. It's day to day thinking, taking moments. I have a very specific approach to this, to how to pull this off no matter how busy you are. That's my small steps approach. But it is about this. We've got to take these moments to keep our perspective and our awareness in check so that we don't get lost. We'll get lost sometimes, but most of the time not get lost into the craziness.
So share more about your small steps for someone that might be interested in joining and being part of one of your classes, so share more about that, because I'm interested too.
Well, it's a 12-week program that I set up a couple years ago, and it's relatively new, but I was doing it where you could sort of trickle in any time, and your day one would be your day one. And I just thought, it didn't really work, because when I would do the live Q&As, people would be at different levels. And so I thought, okay, what if I just try the group, like everybody starts on the same day? And that's been working a lot better. So anyways, it's a 12-week program, and it teaches people my approach to anything. It's an approach to habit change, essentially. So it's not technically food related. Now, a lot of people know who I am, and they know that I'm a nutritionist, so they might have a question about food, but it's not mentioned really in the program. It is then applied to food, but it's also applied to exercise, or to learning how to play guitar, or to decluttering your house. I'm not even kidding. So people have done this a lot. And so it's a mindset of, okay, I want to take this on. How can I do it in a way that keeps my stress managed so that I can keep with it long enough to make it a habit, instead of the usual model, which is go bat out of hell, take on too much, get overwhelmed, and then don't do it anymore. Like, I used to exercise. Well, why don't you? Well, whatever. Well, small steppers just kind of manage that. So if they're exercising and then their life changes because of a new job or something, maybe they bring the exercise back a little bit short term so that they can keep doing it day to day. And then when everything settles down, they ramp it back up. And so I train people how to constant, and literally with maybe a minute a day sometimes, keep that in check. They have a steps list. They have a very concrete thing that they're doing each day that is in the creative world or the journaling world, anything they want to take on. So sometimes people go off meditation. Sounds great. 45 minutes a day, because that's what I saw on some YouTube video. So they start doing 45 minutes a day. Well, for a lot of people, not everybody, but for a lot of people, that's a lot. 45 minutes. Even if you technically have the time, that's a lot to take on. So they might push through that with willpower for 5 days, and then lo and behold, something changes, and they never do it again. A small stepper goes, okay, I'm going to start with 1 minute of deep breathing a day, just so I can get it on the books. And I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to do this every day. And then I'm going to go to 2 minutes, and I'm going to keep doing this. But because I don't dread it every day, and I'm not getting overwhelmed, and if I feel like I'm doing too little, I might go up to 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And you keep that mindset, and you keep doing it. And then after a few months, all of a sudden, you find yourself at 25, 30 minutes, or maybe even that 45, but now you're there and you're not overwhelmed by it. It's just what you do. Same thing with food, same thing with exercise. I started clients off with 5 squats a day for exercise, because they've done the yo-yo exercise, yo-yo dieting. They've done I went to the gym for 45 minutes every day. Well, then you stopped and you haven't done it in a year. Why? Well, because you took on too much. And so it's that balance that I teach them. And that's the training that they get in the 12 weeks. There's live Q&As every week. There's videos every week. There's daily emails, and I'm very accessible via email. So I'm very connected to every member during the process. And so it's been really rewarding and fun. It's not as popular as I wish it were, because it's not a quick fix. It's not sexy. It's a very philosophical, like thinking about your life kind of thing, which I love. But it's 12 weeks. You could be working 90 hours a week and still do this program, because some days you may spend just the time that it takes to read the email, which is 30 seconds. And that may be your only thing. Then the live Q&As on the weekends or whenever they are, is about 30, 45 minutes. So it's a small time commitment, but there's a lot of thinking in between that really where people get the most work done. And it's very, very cool to see the stuff that gets done by people.
About how many people do you have in each session, each 12-week session?
Anywhere from like 7 to 15.
Okay.
So it's not a huge, it's a very intimate, and that's actually fine by me. If I got 10 or 15, I'm like super happy. That's absolutely fine. And I like that, but it's 12 weeks, like it's 3 months. And so it's not for everybody. I mean, I wish it were for everybody, because I think what people get out of it is pretty cool. The biggest response I get from people now is they don't beat themselves up as much. And that was an unexpected not anything that you ever read about on the site because I didn't see that coming. But people go, every time they would beat themselves up about what they're not doing, when they're small stepping, they go, oh, I'm actually doing something about this. So they remove that chatter of beating themselves up almost immediately. Because if they hear you should be exercising, you're lazy. Well, a small stepper goes, I'm going to do 2 squats a day. And even though that's not very much exercise yet, they're doing it. They're beginning the process and they're acting. That two squats will probably turn into true exercise in a month or 2 where they get the benefit of exercise, but they have a habit established and they've gotten rid of the mental beating themselves up, judging themselves. You're so lazy, you're so whatever, all the things we all hear. They immediately can respond, yeah, but I'm doing something about it. I just did 2 squats. So shut up already. Right. And then they can move on and do more positive stuff in their lives. And so they don't get bogged down by this, it's like a slippery slope. You beat yourself up, you feel bad. And when you feel bad, you do the things that you don't want to do in the first place, which is like stress eating and watching TV and then that makes you feel worse about yourself. And then you feel the more mental, it's like that thing when you can break that chain and go, yeah, but I'm doing something about it. Then all of a sudden you see that action is possible. And then you start that upward slope and you bring in more and more over time. So it's pretty exciting to watch.
It's 100% true. I can equate it to deciding I wanted to floss.
Right.
Your dental hygienist, your dentist says you should floss. You should floss. Do you floss? They know if you floss because when they're cleaning your teeth, they know whether you're a flosser or not.
Yeah.
And then you have to go. You always get asked that question, and when you don't, you're kind of like
feel bad about it.
Like,
I know I should. I
know. You're telling me every 6 months I should floss. Blah blah blah. So I picked it up. I moved back to New York in 15 years ago. I think it is now 16 years ago almost, and I said, you know what? I'm going to floss. And I just picked it up and I've only missed in that amount of time, maybe I can count on one hand. Because awesome. you make it a habit. Once you hit, I just spoke about this last night with Steven. I was like, 2 weeks. Just do something for 2 weeks and you turn it into a habit.
Yeah.
And that habit then becomes what you add into your lifestyle. You just do it.
Yeah, and sometimes and by the way, it might take more than 2 weeks for a lot of people. Like it really does. Like it's not I know that there's like 30-day this or 20. I don't think it's scientific. They try to make it that way, but I think it differs because how often have you ever, I don't know if you ever have, but I certainly have. I get on a good routine. Let's say, I'm running, I now run now, but as an example, I'm running every day. Then I go on vacation or something, and I haven't been on vacation in 10 years. So this is a total hypothetical. But anyway, so I go on vacation, but that breaks the routine. Then I come back and I don't exercise anymore because I was doing so well, but then this thing happened, and that's what I really wanted to tackle when I created this program, which was how to continue through that and to be always engaged in your life no matter what happens. And it means you might have to do less for a short period of time and then come back up, but you never stop. And that's what's so cool about it. Because sometimes it takes people longer, like a routine gets broken, like you move and all of a sudden your floss gets put in a box and then you're just so busy with a move and you're so distracted. When I was working with private clients before I launched Small Steppers, one of the only steps I would actually suggest that they do, because everything else they come up with themselves with my assistance, but it would be to text me first thing in the morning, a 1-word text that just says awake or up. That was a step, just because I wanted them to just be like, before everything starts crashing your brain of the news and what you got to do that day, just take a literally 5-second moment to just text me and say, I'm doing this thing first. I would say a good 50% of my clients could not pull that off. They would forget day to day. That's how busy we are. Then we think that a 21-day diet is going to be helpful at all. That's a massive undertaking when they can't do a 5-second text, right? Mm-hmm. So the example was to show them this isn't about of course you have 5 seconds, but how cluttered our brains are with all the things that we're busy and our routines that we get up in the morning and we go downstairs and we brush our teeth, then we go downstairs and we make coffee, all the things we've been doing for 30 years. Even a 5-second text is a break in that, and it takes attention. And I really want us to send that message home. Like, this takes attention to do this. This is not, it sounds easy, but when boots hit the ground, 5 days, I go, what have you not been able, I haven't texted you. Wow, God, why haven't I texted you? and they feel bad about it. I go, don't feel bad about it. This is a lesson for you that now you got to do the things that it takes to put a new habit into place, which is maybe you leave a note on your coffee maker because you go there anyway that says text Sid. Now, all of a sudden, you know how to break your routine and pop in something new. Don't take it for granted. Even if it's a 5-second text, it can be very difficult.
Yes, I agree 100%. And I mean, I do agree that, with the 10-day to plant-based or 10-day vegan, those challenges, Plant Pure has done it, Vegan Outreach is doing it. They, just if you change your diet for 2 weeks, you'll definitely feel the difference.
Yeah.
If you make that conscious decision to do that. And even if you cheat in those 2 weeks, if you still primarily eat plant-based vegan for those 2 weeks,
it'd be great. It'd be great.
You'll notice. You will definitely notice. I mean, not junk food vegan, but eating healthy vegetables. Just eat, because normally when you start, you tend to, if you're an adult, not a kid, deciding to go vegan vegetarian. When you're an adult, you tend to be able to buy the foods that you should be eating, but you weren't.
Sure.
Whereas as a 18, 19-year-old that went vegetarian, for me, it was French fries and grilled cheese and pickles and ketchup, because that's what, I'd eat vegetables when I was 19 years old.
Oh, yeah.
I learned to do that afterwards. So, yeah, I mean, but we hosted an exchange student for about 6 months from Germany who was vegan. And one of the best parts about it was that I made sure we had fresh fruits and vegetables in the house.
Yeah, right.
Right, because I was like, well, I can't just feed her mac and cheese every day. So, because that's what I would do. I'd be so busy working on stuff that I get so hungry that it takes me 15 minutes max to make homemade mac and cheese.
Yeah.
So I just eat that. Maybe throw peas in, but otherwise, that's it. Done.
Yeah.
So,
well, the thing about those 2 weeks is that, I mean, you definitely you'll feel you should feel something. I think that the real benefit of eating this way is a longer than 2 week thing. And I think that makes us notice that diets don't promise long-term health. They actually don't even promise long-term weight loss. They promise weight loss in a certain amount of time. The problem is that post that time, 21 days or something, when you're out of the program, do you have the tools to continue? Because what we have to consider is, especially with the vegan thing, is you've got to then consider your parents who are going to have comments about this, your coworkers are going to have comments about this, your doctor who's not trained in nutrition, she or he is going to have comments about this. Everyone's going to come out of the woodwork and tell you that you're crazy. Do you have the tools to deal with that? And that's the boots on the ground reality of making this kind of conscious decision. I call it we're an ethical minority. When we make this decision, and it puts us in a place of people paying attention to us, and not in a good way. So again, like the ease of it may be there in terms of the knowledge of plant-based and whatever, and if you believe it, which I do obviously, and have studied it, I'm like a doctor, but you can get it done. But then you've got the cultural stuff going on. All of a sudden you go to a party and you got to get a comment because you're not eating the chicken all of a sudden, and that's your identity, and people know you as this. Josh LaJohnie, you know who that guy is? Josh LaJohnie.
I love Josh.
Yeah, he's great. And I had him on my first podcast, and we've spoken at similar events. So I've seen him, we've become we're acquaintances. When he made his change, he lost friends because he's not that, they wanted him to be that guy. They wanted him to be the same guy that he always was. And that's a very difficult thing that you cannot get from a 30-day challenge of going plant-based. You cannot get what the ramifications may be. And so I'm not discounting those things, do those things, but also understand that there's some thinking that's got to be done in terms of how you're going to approach this and continue it long enough so you can be successful long-term, which is really where the success is going to come. It's going to come longer than a 30-day challenge. The 30-day, I love those things because they get you jump-started, but I don't love them if you stop and then feel like you failed, because you didn't fail. The thinking has got to get done so you can continue. And so that's what's left out of the conversation, I think, a little too much. And that's where I feel like my place is in the world of this, is to bring in the philosophy of this, and then leave the, heart disease statistics to other people, which is great. And we need that too. But I'm not that guy. I'm not interested in that guy. I'm interested in helping somebody be able to pull this off long enough so that they have the heart disease effect of this diet. I want to get there, not because of militancy or fear, but because they really understand now what self-care is. And so they don't feel like their restriction. Again, like, how many people have you met I could never give up cheese. Well, because the perception is that vegan is a restrictive diet. And if you looked at just the food, it would be, because you are not eating animal products. But if you look at it nutritionally, if you eat it the healthy version of vegan, you're bringing in way more in nutrition. I mean, it's not restrictive at all. You're actually bringing in way more nutrition in the food and fiber. So it's not a restrictive move if you understand the context of this idea. But if you just look at the food and taste, sure, people are giving up steak and they don't want to give up steak. They certainly don't want to do it if they think that you're telling them to do it. But if you know what I mean? But if you can sort of get their mind around, this decision is going to make you less happy, it's going to make you more happy. All of a sudden they go, well, wait a second, that's weird. If you just make it about heart disease, they'll do it a while because they don't want to get diabetes. But if you make it about self-care and about joy and happiness and vibrancy, all of a sudden they kind of get the sell there. They understand that this is what this is, and I'm not hawking a product. It's like, just feel good. And that's I think that's a pretty effective way to go at it as well.
Plus, a lot of people say this, that people who go vegan for health reasons will not necessarily last as being vegan because they don't quite understand the ethics part of being vegan,
right.
which is how it impacts the planet and how it impacts the animals. Now, I went vegan for health, so I'm not going back. But we're fewer than the people who get the ethics part, the people who watch something like Dominion and go, "That's it, I'm done." Right.
So, well, I came for health too, but the thing about it, I think that vegans should swallow this pill a little bit, and I don't like it any more than anybody else, but I think it's something that we should be okay with. If somebody goes plant-based for health only, and let's say they don't fully go 100%, maybe they cut dairy down so much they have it once in a while and they have meat once in a while. That's so much better.
Yes.
I mean, it's so much. If everybody did that, it would still be horrible for the animals, but not as horrible. And I think we need to go, that's amazing that you did that. Even if it was for health, you're eating more plants, you're eating more fruits and vegetables, you're eating less of this stuff. Great. Of course, we'd love for you to go to 100% because of the environment and everything. And maybe they'll get there. I mean, I went for health. And then in reading cookbooks and things, when I was doing it, I was like, animal cruelty and the environment. I remember talking to a friend of mine, this is years ago, I've been vegan for almost 18 years. And I started reading, because I was for health only, but then I started getting I got something from the Sierra Club one time, and they were talking about, vegans, the analog of vegans, like riding a bicycle, vegetarians like a Prius, and eating meat is like, a semi. And so I'd never thought about the environmental, but I mean, I got this thing, I was already vegan, but sort of junk foody, like fake meat kind of stuff. And so I was reading this, and a buddy of mine was a, self-proclaimed sort of environmentalist, drove a Prius and everything. And I remember calling him and I go, my decision to be vegan is way more environmentally friendly than anything that you're doing. And he was like, yeah, right. And then a year later, he goes, you were 100% right about it. He goes, that I didn't realize. And so it's kind of interesting the way that however your in is, you may get there, because once you get into that world, you go to a veg fest to taste something at a table, but you walk by an environmental table or farm sanctuary, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a second, there's other aspects to this decision, and that's kind of cool too. And then that keeps you going in the right direction, I think.
That's why I have the education. That's why
totally
we dedicated a day to education for this 100% this reason, is I've had speakers say they've seen the light bulbs figuratively go off on top of people's heads as they were speaking. Because there's so much you don't know everything. It's impossible to know everything. And the variety of speakers, I mean, between health, the environment, educating about the animals. I mean, I have a little bit of everything, from gardening, organic gardening, veganic gardening. I mean, I try to bring everything I possibly can. And then to have speakers that come that can speak about parenting, can speak about, perceptions of veganism.
Right.
And, you can touch on all of it.
Yeah.
And that's to me, that's why I do what I do. And that's why this is so much fun for me too, because I've hung out with you. We've stayed in the house together. We were going to do that this year in Asheville again.
I know. And I was I had so much fun at that. I had so much fun at that house was that Wilmington?
That was Wilmington. Yep.
It was so great. We
had a blast.
The best time was, I think, after the event that night, because we were all burnt. You were especially burnt, and we were sitting there, and I think I was having a beer. We were just I felt like I was in college again. I was like, well, this is like, we're like at a frat house, and I wasn't even in a frat, and we were just like hanging out, chatting, and it was like God, that was so fun. That was so fun.
Yeah, and Ellen Jaffe Jones was with us, and Andrea was with us, and we just, I mean, that's part of what's so cool about this as well, is that I do spend weekends with a lot of the speakers. We do dine out. It's a big part of like what we do is we eat, but when I get to hang out in the same house with all of you, I get to know you as people, and then the relationship just continues from there, because I've seen you in Florida, in Nashville,
right,
in the Triangle, in Wilmington,
right,
and it's just, I mean, so a little story for people is what we were going to do, because Cam F. Awesome was the MC that year. Do you remember?
Right.
And he fudges his words a lot when he's doing the MC thing. So we were going to actually put like a fake profile for Sid for him to read. Do you remember this? We were gonna put like he's this avid meat eater.
I forgot all about that. Yeah, because he like reads the thing. He got my name right. He had the thing, but he's like Sid Gark. I was like, oh.
Sorry, Cam, but it's really funny. And he doesn't know we were going to do that, but we didn't. I wish we had.
So that would have been.
We're going to do a fake profile and just wait and see how long before he realized that what he was reading was not accurate.
Read the teleprompter and not really paying attention. We should do that. I hope he doesn't watch this.
I don't. Well, maybe maybe someone will tell him. But it's all in good fun. It's the whole point, right? It's all in good fun. He's a comedian, so he should get the value.
That's right.
Oh, this is so much fun. Yeah, I really hope that I get to see you in person. Obviously, if it's not this year, it'll hopefully be next year.
I mean, fingers crossed. I want to get out. I mean, I think I always picture like what this will be like when we're past it.
Right.
And I just like, I'm not an overly social person. I mean, I like people, and I like small group hence my race. Like I like keeping numbers small, but I always wonder, like, post this, am I just going to be the most social person because I'm jonesing so much for it? Like I'm just going to want to go to raves now, because I want to be around 1,000 people because we haven't hugged anybody, like I have friends who I kind of pass on the road, and the physicality of this is really shocking. Like not to be able to, when I see a buddy of mine, I give him a hug or give her a hug, and not to be able to do that is really a weird thing. And I'm wondering how cool it will be when this is done, when we can actually like physically contact people again. I think I don't know. I hope it comes sooner than later.
I do too. I've really, this hasn't been too much of a stretch for me. I spend most of my time at home. Right. It's where I work. And then I go out and spend a weekend with thousands of people, and I come home and don't want to be around anybody. So I would assume that if you went to a rave, you'd be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm good for the next 2 years.
Yeah. I'm good. I got my fill. Thanks.
Exactly. My cup is full.
Can we get another pandemic in here? Because I don't want to ever do that again. God, it's horrible, isn't it? No. We have nothing but our senses of humor at this point. It's so crazy.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully you all have your senses of humor.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one day. The adage of one day at a time has never been more true.
Yeah, I was on this podcast earlier this week. This guy in Norway has a podcast, and so he emailed and asked me to come on. And so he's in Norway, and they're kind of opening things up pretty well. They've handled it very well. They have very few cases, and so they're bringing things back. And he goes, he was asking me like, how are things, in the States? And I go, given a little bit of the background, he goes, well, we get a lot of news from we always read a lot of United States news, but most of it is we just see your leaders saying very crazy things. I was like, yeah, so do we. You're getting the same news we are, and that the world is watching us going, good Lord, what is happening there? And we're like, yeah, I know, we're in this. I'm like, can you find me a job in Norway? Get me out of here. It's crazy. I just want to lift the Stanford in and place it in Norway, and then we can all just go there and do that thing over there. But anyway.
Yeah, well, anyone who knows me knows where my political alliances are, and they are not with what's going on. I keep saying, like, I don't understand why we can be 5 months into something and not have things. I'm an organizer. I organize things. I plan and I organize things. Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
If I saw something that was going to impact what I'm doing, which it has, I make adjustments. I made the adjustments as soon as I needed to for events.
So did I. So would I with my race.
That's what we do.
And I don't actually think this is a political thing. This is not. I don't care what side you're on. This is an intelligence and a responsibility and a integrity issue. For me, first and foremost, it has nothing to do with politics, because I'm not super one way or the other. Actually, I'm pretty central. I have different kind of ideas around. It's not political. It's just intelligence. It's just integrity. It's just honesty, And so anybody should be like, that's not okay. I don't care what side of the aisle you stay on. And that we're losing that part of it in this country is more scary to me than anything else, that we are taking ethics out of the picture and just being like, who's going to win? Who's going to win this argument? And it's just such a bad road, isn't it? It's like such a bad road to go down.
It's not the people that have died from this virus.
No.
So it's awful. I mean, it's impacted my family. So it's about as close to home as I wanted to get. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch people and what they're writing and what they're posting on their timelines. And and it's true. It really does exist, and people really are dying, and there are families that are impacted. And
that's real.
We need to do better. We need to do better as society, as people, as humans.
Yeah, as people. Yeah, as people. Yeah, you just need to step up and be people of integrity and people of character. And when we lose that, we got nothing. We need the people who are going to step in and be that ethical minority to say, no, this is not okay. I don't care what the ramifications for me personally are, but this is not okay. And I'm doing business this way from now on, and I think to foster more of that. But it can be very disheartening, to watch what goes on and feel powerless. But we are powerless in some ways, but we're very powerful in other ways. And I think we just need to focus on the ways that we can be powerful and not the ways that we can't control, because it's just going to drive us nuts. That's why I'm very adamant about, like, get in the morning, read the news for 5 minutes, and then get back out. Because if you get swept up into that whole thing, I quit social media in December of 2018. I have nothing. I deleted everything because it was a suck. It was like a soul suck. And there's usefulness. My career definitely took a hit by not being on social media, but personally, just with the work I do, I realize, like, I can't do that and this over here. Like, I need to be focused on what I can do and how to reach people on a personal level, and not like, I came back to YouTube. I left because of their business practices. They were violating child privacy laws. I was like, this is insane. Well, they've fixed those things as far as I can tell. So I'm back on YouTube as of about a month ago. And I decided when I came back, I just did a blog post on this, but I decided to turn off all comments. No matter what, like, I post the video and I turn off the comment section, and that's just how I'm doing it now. It's like, I don't want watch the video. Hopefully you get something out of it. Like it, don't like it, out, whatever, and then move on. Go do other stuff with your life. Don't spend a moment, even if it's a positive comment, and that's so sweet and nice, and thank you. But don't waste your time on me. Go do other cool stuff. So I just shut down that comment section and just like, it's not there. If you look at my new videos, you go down, scroll down, you cannot leave a comment. Because I think it's too easy to go down that rabbit hole of just somebody comments and somebody doesn't, and then they don't like it. And then all of a sudden the comment section becomes the thing, and the video's up there. And it's like, you're on the video. This isn't about the comment people. Right. And so I think we need to make moves to sort of keep the focus on the work itself and less about the chatter that can just, like you said, the guy who came onto one of these live things is like, what is that guy? He has that much time in his hands, like, to just leave an inappropriate comment on a webcast. It's like, this so weird. Go get a hobby, man. Go make some driftwood something or other, because it's crazy that you're wasting your time like that. You there?
I mean, that's like the most. I'm here. It was with Dillip.
With who?
And Dillip is like the most pure person, with Dillip Barman of Triangle Vegetarian Society. It was on his talk, and he's the most pure person in, like, the world. And there's this guy in the stream who's, like, saying, like, sexual things, and I was like, Stephen, you gotta get rid of that. I was like,
yeah,
you don't know, it's live, it's out to. I mean, this is on every page that I have.
Right.
The Plant-Based Network alone has 138,000 followers all over the world. So you don't know. I mean, that person was blocked after that, because that's not the intent purpose of what we're doing. Right. So if you think about doing something like that, as I've said before in some of these talks, when you write something on the internet and you're sitting at a keyboard, guess what you have time to do? Read. Think. Delete.
Yeah. Now I like how you point out that person was pure, Whereas if somebody did that on this one, no problem because of who I am. I mean, it was Sid.
Actually,
So
if it happened here, the amount of
you'd be
fun
like,
we'd have with it.
yeah, oh yeah, no, I'd be like, oh, thank God that you did that just now. That's so funny.
I know.
That doesn't make me a good person.
No.
That's why I don't run a farm sanctuary.
But you wanted to adopt pigs. Just, when you came to Wilmington, there were pigs that needed adoption that were in North
I
Carolina.
called Jeff. Remember, I called Jeff. I was like,
Yep.
"Do you want to do it? Can we do this?" I've always wanted a pig, and he just couldn't get it done. It's just too hard. They have rescue animals on the land already, and they just don't have the space.
Right.
But I mean, I'm so tempted all the time to do that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
there certainly are enough pigs and all rescue all farm animals that need homes. So whenever you can, right now there are pigs that need homes.
Yeah, no doubt.
And there's still pigs from Kentucky that are on Cotton Branch that need homes. So it's never going to end. It's just a matter of like when and where can somebody be, in the place where they can adopt.
Yeah, and it's just the cost of transport and all these kinds of like those kinds of things, and veterinarian. Like we have a rescue horse. We have a retired thoroughbred that was my wife's cousin gave to us, and so we've had her. My daughter rides and takes care of her, but the cost of that is, it's a lot. And so and there's any problems with a vet, it's like whoa. So you have to have enough finances to be able to take this on in a responsible way, and that's been one of the prohibitive things, of taking on another animal like that to make sure I can care for it correctly.
Right. Yeah, to care for them. Exactly. Yeah. So if somebody wanted to find out about you, somebody wanted to find you, someone wanted to take your classes, somebody wanted to read your books, tell us, and somebody wanted to visit the Stanford Inn, can't they get gift certificates right now for the future? It's something we can keep them, afloat. Yep.
They can. Yep, they can do that. So stanfordin.com, just STANFORD, no D in the middle. So Stanford, like the university, but it's not affiliated with the university. Anyway, stanfordin.com. Because I'm not on any social media or anything, you can go to SidGarza-Hillman.com, all one word, Sid Garza-Hillman, and literally get everything. You can watch my videos there. You can get links to links to where my books are. You can get links to Small Steppers, but it's smallsteppers.com is the actual program. Haven't announced the date of the next session yet, but I will pretty soon. But you can join the mailing list, or you can join the Sid Garza-Hillman mailing list, and you'll get the information. I do have a blog, about once a month. I don't send a lot of emails out, but I blog, and that's a good way to keep in touch with me and make sure that you're finding out what and when is happening. And so SidGarza-Hillman.com or SmallSteppers.com or StanfordIn.com. I can be reached at any of those places.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm really glad that you joined me today.
I am too.
And for everyone watching, you can go and subscribe to the Virtual Veg Fest YouTube channel. It's something that we have done. We're trying to build up our subscribership and to watch the videos on there, which would be great. You can also go to virtualvegfest.com because that's where you can shop for vendors, and all our speaker videos are up there and you can go watch them again. And they also link to our YouTube channel. And of course, hopefully we will do in-person events at some point, and you'll get to meet Sid, which, you'd be very fortunate because he's really cool.
Oh, so he's so cool. Oh, me. Yes. No, yes. I am. Yeah. No.
Yes, we have a ton of fun. So I was really glad that you were able to do this. And thankfully it ended up being Eastern Standard Time, so it didn't interfere with the 4-hour run, the run every 4 hours, because it was, if it was Pacific time, because Sid's in California, if you haven't picked up on that just.
And I'm usually fairly organized, so the fact that I got everything so wrong was interesting to me to watch my own just disorganization, but it worked out perfectly.
It did, and that's why, I follow up. That's why I have a text with you that says, "Hey, you okay?"
Yeah, I saw a text. I was like, "What?"
I know. Thankfully, I know you look at your phone.
I'll be like, "I'll be down in 5 minutes." So, I ran out of my studio, and here I am. So cool.
And that's exactly what happened before we started this. Yep. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And have a great rest of your weekend. If you know that it's the weekend, because the days do blend together now.
I know.
And there are days I wake up and wonder what day it is. And that was before this anyway, but now even more so.
Yeah.
But and if you can, definitely support the Stanford Inn, and if you can, visit it. And if you take up running, he is one of the people that would be a great coach. If
Thank
you have, oh yeah, for sure. One thing we didn't even touch on was the no eating before like 11, right? You were talking with Andrea when we were in Wilmington.
Yeah, I intermittent fast, have been
Yep.
doing that for a couple years now. It's not necessarily 11, but yeah, it's a 16-hour window that I don't eat, and then and it was interesting during this 48-hour thing I've been doing, like in the middle of the night, it's water only, the morning one, and I was fine up until this morning, the 8 a.m. one this morning. After that one, I hit a crash, and I went, good Lord. And so I was like, I gotta lay down. And so my wife made me a 4 banana and water shake. I drank that, and I swear to you, 25 minutes later, I was like, boop, okay, we're good. And I was back on the like it was completely turned me around. So yeah, but it's been interesting. It's been a pretty cool experiment.
Oh, neat. So keep following Sid. And I don't know who's going to be our talk for next Thursday, but I do know that Kathy Hester is going to do a live cooking demo next
Fun.
Saturday, which will be really cool. It'll be cooking what's for dinner with Kathy Hester. She's a local cookbook author in Durham, North Carolina, and she's ultra cool. So we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Sid.